No messing around. You see it. There's no time to waste. My drafts are here in the next couple weeks, so we got to get to mock drafting. As you see, we're over here on Sleeper, the absolute best platform to do your mock drafts. And again, we're going to do 12 teams, no time limit. My goal here, I'm going to let this first one kind of just play out, but my goal here for you guys is to have one in the middle, the beginning and the end of your drafts. And we're not going to go with anything too crazy for this first mock draft. We're just going to go and see how it plays out for us. As kicking off, we're dead set in the middle. So now the next two mock drafts, we're going to have one at the beginning and the end of our drafts. But here you go. We're on the clock. And we have Justin Jefferson go number 1, McCaffrey number 2, Eckler number 3, Tyreek and Travis Kelce, former teammates, at 4 and 5. And we're here at number 6. Now, my rankings, I'll say this. My rankings, I do have Cooper Kupp. I'm not worried about his hamstring. With how he's played the last 2 years that he's been healthy, has been amazing. Last year, before his injuries, he was on pace to beat his Triple Crown year by a large margin. He was averaging like 23 fantasy points a game. You cannot get any better than that. At least it's very rare, right? I do think here at pick 6, we're going to go with Ja'Marr Chase simply for the fact that I haven't had a lot of Ja'Marr Chase builds. As if I'm at the early rounds, I'm usually taking Jefferson or Kupp or even McCaffrey. I haven't had a lot of Chase builds. So we're going to do that here today, as why not experiment? Our drafts are a week away and we're on top of our craft. At least we feel like it. But we can always try some new tactics. As right here, we're back on the clock, a standard league where we have 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So if you join a random ESPN or Yahoo league, this is what your drafts are going to look like. But as we see after our Chase pick, we had Bijan, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp falls to 9. After that, it was A.J. Brown, Saquon, and Nick Chubb to close out the first round. To open up the second, we see Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor, despite all of his questions there. But who knows, maybe he gets traded to Philly. CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, and Josh Jacobs follow up that Jonathan Taylor pick. And we're back on the clock. And we're now in a position where, hey, do we want to take Pat Mahomes? Do we want to take Josh Allen? We could go out there and get a guy like Tony Pollard, which is my highest rated running back still on the board. But tight end, it's too early. If Mark Andrews comes back to me at the 3-6, that's most likely my selection. But receiver, we see a guy like Jalen Waddle, a top 10 receiver from me in my rankings. Another guy like Garrett Wilson, right outside if he's not a top 10 receiver. Do I want to bank on taking a Garrett Wilson here and banking on a Mark Andrews to follow up, kind of a zero RB approach? That would be something interesting. We can do that. We can always come back around next round with a Ramondre Stevenson or a Jahmyr Gibbs in the 3rd round, though that would be slightly a reach. I am going to take Jalen Waddle. Am I? I'm going to take Jalen Waddle simply because him and Garrett Wilson are so close in my rankings that it's kind of like a which one do you want? I don't usually take Jalen Waddle. I've usually been taking Garrett Wilson as he's the number 1 in that offense in New York with Aaron Rodgers. But I like Jalen Waddle a lot. One of my favorite players to watch. And now I have 2 top 10 receivers in my rankings to start my draft. After that Jalen Waddle selection, we saw 3 quarterbacks go off the board, as well as Garrett Wilson, Tony Pollard, Mark Andrews there at the turn. As well as Chris Olave, Najee Harris, Breece Hall, and DK Metcalf goes to Team 5 right before us. And we're back on the clock. Ramondre Stevenson is there. Now look, if Zeke wasn't there, if they didn't sign Ezekiel Elliott, this is a smash pick. This is a Ramondre and don't look back pick. But Ramondre does now have competition there with Ezekiel Elliott, and I think goal line work might go to Zeke. But again, we thought that last year with Damian Harris. We thought they might just use Ramondre as an early down back. All the big downs are going to go to Damian Harris. We couldn't have been more wrong. Ramondre was everything for New England last year, and he might be the selection here, as I love the receivers. I love Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel's okay, but T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, I love those guys. I was interested in Mark Andrews in the 3rd, but if I don't get Andrews in the 3rd, I'm going to look for TJ Hockenson in the 4th or 5th round. So no tight ends for me here. Ramondre is one of the decisions here. It comes down to Rhamondre or Jahmyr Gibbs. Who do I want more on a team like this? As we're going to get back in this draft here. I don't know what happened. So Rhamondre or Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I'm gonna go Rhamondre simply for the fact that, let me turn off the sound for you guys. Simply for the fact that Rhamondre is still the guy in the offense, and I know they signed Zeke, and I know he might take some red zone work away from Rhamondre Stevenson. However, we had those same concerns last year, and he still turned out to be a top 5, top 6 running back for our fantasy teams. So just a quick look at the board here for you guys, as I already pretty much know my next selection. Quick update on the board, as again, we're not doing too deep of drafts. We're only doing 13 spots or so, as this is kind of just to get an overall idea or another perspective on how your drafts can go. But round 4, we're back here on the clock. Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, 2 highly rated receivers for me, as well as Amari Cooper. And we could just go out there and stack our receiver positions to get that positional advantage, and that would give us the ability to take Tua later on to give us that stack with Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to go with a guy that I haven't gotten a lot recently, as this is a guy that he was my most drafted receiver early in the offseason, and Calvin Ridley. If you guys have kept up with this podcast at all, you know I'm a big Calvin Ridley fan this season. I really believe in what the Jags can do. In totality, I think Calvin Ridley can fulfill his promise to his baby, where he goes for 1,400 yards and some touchdowns there. I think he can have a big year, an all-pro level year, and if you can get that in the 4th round, that's amazing value. So my receivers now, Ja'Marr Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Calvin Ridley to pair with Rhamondre Stevenson. I think that is a really, really good start. You can't go too wrong. Quarterbacks, again, now I could take Trevor Lawrence because I do have Calvin Ridley, and if I think this Jags team is going to have the year that they can have, Trevor Lawrence is not a bad pick whatsoever. And we can also go with a different stack there later on. So it really just comes down to, do I want J.K. Dobbins, as he's a top 20-ish running back for me? Do I want Alexander Mattison, another top 20-ish running back for me, and then come around with maybe Tua, and I could still get an elite stack, just not the Jacksonville one. However, there's 3 teams here, team 12, 9, and 10. Those teams do not need, or they need a quarterback. So do I want to bank on, hey, maybe either Tua or Trevor Lawrence will get back to us? I think that's the most overall, that's the most optimal strategy. So give me J.K. Dobbins. I like Alexander Mattison a lot. He's the workhorse there in Minnesota. There's not any questions about his availability and ability there. Give me J.K. Dobbins. He's going to be the running back in not a run-first offense this year, but still an offense that will run a decent amount. And I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins. Maybe that was a mistake. I'm kind of regretting it here now that I think about it. But Trevor Lawrence does go. We can still get our quarterback here, and we can wait, I believe, a round or so, as the only team ahead of us that needs a quarterback is Team 2, and they would definitely take Dak or Deshaun Watson over a guy like Tua Tagovailoa. DeAndre Swift is the guy that's on the board, and he piques my interest, as he could be a guy that is, a right back to, I'll put it this way. Miles Sanders led the NFL in rushing touchdowns last year with like 13. DeAndre Swift is a more talented back, and he should get at least 8 this year, you would think, but he can't stay healthy, and if it's too good to be true with DeAndre Swift, it usually is. However, I do see a guy like Brandon Ayuk here. Brandon Ayuk is a guy that, to me, is the best overall receiver for this San Francisco 49ers team, and he's going to show that this year. I think if there's a player to get on the San Francisco offense, aside from Christian McCaffrey, you want to get Brandon Ayuk, as he's a very intriguing option. The same with Marquise Brown, as I think Marquise Brown's being disrespected because of his quarterback situation early in the season. As I think when he comes back, or I'll put it this way, I think when Kyler comes back, that connection's still there. I mean, they were college teammates at one point. Nothing is going to change as far as their connection. Marquise Brown could be a very good selection, but also Dallas Goedert is a guy that we could target, as after Dallas Goedert, there is a bit of a drop-off. I think Goedert could be a top 5 tight end. He would fill a positional need for us. And let's go Dallas Goedert. I did all that talking about Brandon Ayuk just to skip on him. But he's one of those players, like, same with Marquise Brown. I don't know about you guys. Drop some of those down in the comments below. But what are some of those guys that you know are good, that can be good, but you just can't draft them? You can't pull the trigger on it. For me, that guy is Brandon Ayuk. I know that's a big mistake, but he's just one of those guys for me. But moving over here, we're back on the clock, middle of the 7th round, and we need a quarterback still. Watson went off the board. Do we want to gamble? Do we want to say, hey, there's what is there? There's 2 teams without a quarterback. Do we want to gamble and say there's 4 possible picks that Tua can go? Do we want to take the risk that he's not there? And I don't, just for the simple fact that I would be pretty upset if I had to settle on an Anthony Richardson or Rodgers as my starting quarterback. So give me Tua Tagovailoa. It's going to complete the stack here with a guy like Jalen Waddle. And that is our starting lineup. So we have Tua Tagovailoa, Ramondre Stevenson, J.K. Dobbins. That is the weak part of our team. That running back room there, especially with the addition of Zeke Elliott to New England. But this is how you practice. This is how you see, okay, I started with an elite wide receiver core of Ja'Marr Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Calvin Ridley. How does the rest of my team play out? Am I happy enough with the rest of the team that I would take a strategy like this on draft day? But we also do have Dallas Goedert, a top 5 tight end to me. We have 3 top 20 receivers, top 15 receivers in my opinion, as well as a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football in Tua Tagovailoa. So again, we saw Dak Prescott go. Most likely we would have saw Tua go here, but we don't. And Tua fell, or we took our guy early, and we're back on the clock. Jahan Dotson is one of those guys that can save this wide receiver room. You know, let's say Jalen Waddle is still just an okay receiver, or he takes a step back, or let's say Ja'Marr Chase takes a step back, or his injuries linger, or Calvin Ridley is just not what we think he is. We're going to go out there and we're going to get Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson is a guy that is in a Washington offense that, look, I know, how is he going to get the ball if he has Sam Howell throwing it to him? It doesn't, to me, this Washington offense has been looking for a creative play caller for years now, and they are finally have it. I think they finally have it with Eric Bieniemy, and whether if it's Sam Howell or Jacoby Brissett, I think Terry McLaurin has a better year, and I think Jahan Dotson might explode. You know, there's a lot of hype behind Jahan Dotson this year, especially in the 8th, 9th round, when it doesn't really hurt your team to take that risk for the league-winning upside. If you've missed Wednesday's video, go check that out. I'm giving you guys some tips and tricks on how to dominate your drafts this year. As we're back on the clock, Kadarius Toney is an intriguing pick. I'm not going to go that way. Rashad Penny's another guy that it seems like there was a lot of hype around him, but now reports say he might not even get playing time there in Philly behind Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift. And when they're playing the Giants, of course, Boston Scott. Brian Robinson is a guy that we could take. He could shore up this running back room. He is going to give us just a solidified guy that we know he's going to touch the ball a lot. Antonio Gibson has never been a relevant fantasy player aside from 1 year, which was his rookie year. Give me Brian Robinson. Give me a guy that is a steady running back. Never to this day would I thought we would take 2 back-to-back Commanders. But we're going to take a steady running back that, let's say, J.K. Dobbins, and this Baltimore offense is more pass-happy than we thought. And J.K. Dobbins is, for some reason, getting no passing work. I think Brian Robinson could step in, and he's going to, we know for one thing for sure, he's going to get the rushing work there in Washington. But we're back on the clock here. We see a guy like Elijah Moore, which is the pick here. Elijah Moore is the pick. If you can get Elijah Moore in the 10th round, please do not think twice about it. Get Elijah Moore. The way he's been looking in camp, the way they've been talking about him, the way that other practice coaches have been talking about him from opposing teams, Elijah Moore looks like a different wide receiver this year, and he seems to be the favorite target for Deshaun Watson, who Deshaun Watson's looking for a bounce-back year, and he needs to find a couple receivers he can trust, and I think Elijah Moore has already been a receiver he can trust here early on in the year. Tight end position, we could look, as that might be a last-round pick, as we see guys like Higbee and Dulcich that are guys I like, but they could be the last-round pick. Again, this is only 12 rounds. It's a shallow draft. Your drafts are usually going to be 14 to 17 rounds. So I don't want to just reach on a guy just to fill out a roster spot. if that makes any sense. But I do see a guy here like Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is a guy that they said it's going to be a committee there in Atlanta. And I think if there's any odd man out, it would be Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson's like 31 years old. He can play slot receiver for this Atlanta offense. And they drafted Bijan Robinson, who he has receiving abilities, but I don't know if you trust him enough to here put him out on the slot and go cook, as it's completely different when you're running one-on-one routes with the entire field to your advantage against a linebacker. You should beat a linebacker. You're faster than a linebacker. You're more agile. And he's just an overall better football player, but you should be able to beat a guy like that in one-on-ones with a full field at your advantage. Regardless, Bijan's still good talent. I just think if there's an odd man out, it would be Cordero, leaving the door open for a guy like Tyler Algier to still have a very valuable role. However, I'm going to go Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby is a guy I wouldn't take in the 11th round. Maybe. I don't know. He's not a guy I would typically take in the 11th round. However, with Travis Etienne's injury concerns, and I don't want to project injuries on anybody, but Tank Bigsby has looked amazing in camp. He had like a 90-yard run in practice against another team. I think if there's any injury that happens to Etienne, Tank Bigsby is going to be a very good running back there in that Jacksonville offense, and he might even get all the goal line work over Etienne there. He might even be a touchdown merchant like Jamal Williams from last year. But we're back on the clock here. Last pick in the draft. And I'm going to go with a sleeper. With this last pick in all these drafts, I want to give you guys a sleeper that you could take in your drafts. If I can type correctly, I would get this to you guys. But here we go. Jayden Reed. A guy, again, do not take him in the 12th round. It's just the last round of this draft. And I want to take a sleeper for you guys. As you can see, hey, this is a guy I could take in the 17th, 18th round. But he could be a very valuable receiver. As you know, if you followed the podcast, I'm a big Jordan Love fan. I'm a believer in Green Bay this year, though not a Green Bay fan. And his favorite receiver has been Jayden Reed ever since he took over as the starter of Green Bay. Jayden Reed, first-year guy. I think he can explode this year, be one of those surprising Rookie of the Year candidates. And if this Green Bay offense is going to be running 5 wide as much as they say, Jayden Reed should get a lot of work this year. So Jayden Reed, I said his name 100 times, but that is going to be my last pick there. Again, he's not a 12th round value. However, he is definitely a sleeper you can look towards in your drafts. But here we go. We're going to go into another one. And, we'll say same roster settings, but this time we'll go with 3 wide receivers. That's it. We'll go 3 wide receivers, right? We'll go 3 wide receivers, switch it up a little bit, and we'll go with the number 3 pick because I was born March 3rd, 2003. Let's go with the 3rd overall pick. It's my lucky number. We're going to start here early in the draft. So we had a middle pick. Now we have a 3rd pick in the draft. And I don't know. Maybe we'll say this is a Dolphins fandom league. A hometown Miami league. I don't know. But we see McCaffrey go 101. That is pretty typical if it's not Justin Jefferson. After that, though, we see Tyreek Hill go at number 2. A big reach, I guess is the way to put it. And it sounds crazy because Tyreek, if you took him at 3, 4, 5, it's not a reach at all. But to take him over a guy like Justin Jefferson is a bit crazy to me. And that's going to be my pick here. I'm going to take Justin Jefferson to kick off my draft at the number 3 pick. I don't think there could be a better start than that. As to me, he's the consensus 101 in any league, any format. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. And he fell to me at number 3, so we got him there. After the Justin Jefferson selection, we saw Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, Bijan Robinson, who seems to always go at 7. No matter what draft, no matter what format, how many teams, he seems to always go at number 7. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know if that's a bug there in Sleeper. But Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, Pat Mahomes goes in the 1st round, as well as A.J. Brown to close off the 1st round. To open up the 2nd, we see CeeDee Lamb, Nick Chubb with Pat Mahomes there. Interesting build. Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Amon-Ra, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, and Josh Allen. I saw something the other day that said Tony Pollard was going in like the 8th round of our drafts last year. It's just absolutely insane to see how a player can jump up so fast with how much can change. But Tony Pollard was like a 6th, 7th round selection. He's now in the 2nd round. It's kind of crazy. But Justin Jefferson here with this selection, and I want to go with a different build here. And, I could go Garrett Wilson. Maybe on draft day I actually do go Garrett Wilson because it is a 3 wide receiver league. Why don't I just stack up the most important position? But I also think that with it being 3 wide receivers, the positional advantage and the scarcity of elite players at the quarterback and tight end positions are harder to get than ever. The scarcity is higher than ever, and I think that's why the positional advantage is there. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts, my quarterback 1 on the season, and I'm hoping Mark Andrews makes it back to us. As you see Team 2, I know that I kind of slandered them early on, but you see their start to the draft. 2 Miami wide receivers and Garrett Wilson. To me, 3 top 11, top 10 receivers. So they're off to a pretty good start, but definitely having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is a question mark. But who knows, maybe they can get Tua later on and just go full Miami. But we're back on the clock here in round 3, and here's where the question lies. Typically I would flirt with the idea of going with a Devontae Smith. Just going full stack, just get one of the best possible stacks you can get in a league, and just go with Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and also have Justin Jefferson. But I'm going to play it smart. I'm going to go with another positional advantage guy. And on Wednesday's video, I talked about getting great value brands, where Travis Kelce, look, amazing player. He's going to be the tight end 1 probably again. We know the type of player Travis Kelce is. But if you can get the great value version of players, if I can get 90% of what I thought Travis Kelce could be 2 rounds later, I think that's an absolute steal, and we get that here in Mark Andrews. I think if there's anybody that could be the tight end 1 on this season, aside from Travis Kelce, it would be Mark Andrews, and I got him 2 rounds later. So I think that's really, really good. We have 3 different players at 3 different positions that could all finish as the number 1 spot. And we have filled out the 2 positions that will give us positional advantages with the quarterback and tight end positions. But we're back on the clock here. DeAndre Hopkins is a name that we see, as well as George Kittle and Justin Fields. We really don't need any of those guys. Running back are definitely starting to slim out, as I was hoping a guy like Aaron Jones would maybe slip back to me. But we're back here on the clock. And if we're really looking for guys that we could take, we see guys like, Hopkins is an option. Hopkins is another one of those guys, like in the first draft, he's just one of the guys I can't pull myself together to draft this year. So Hopkins I'm going to stay away from. McLaurin is another one of those guys where I had him last year. He kind of burned me late in the year. But DJ Moore is a guy that's been growing on me, as well as Jerry Jeudy. So which one do I want to go with? DJ Moore or Jerry Jeudy? I'm gonna go with DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a guy I don't think I've drafted all offseason, to be honest with you guys. But he seems to have some type of connection with Justin Fields. If Justin Fields has improved as much as they say he has through the air, I think this is an amazing value to grab a wide receiver 1 in the 4th round to really put this team together. Now, again, we're not gonna have the best wide receiver core because, for one, Team 2 doesn't believe in any other position besides wide receiver. We see they've taken 5 straight wide receivers. But also, we took 2 other onesie positions in the quarterback and tight end. So our receiver crew is going to be back a little bit, but we'll see if we can manage. As we're back here, Christian Watson is on the clock. Do I want to bank on Jordan Love that much, where I think Jordan Love can make Christian Watson a very valuable wide receiver 1? I don't know if I want to take that risk. I know Drake London is a very good receiver for Atlanta, but he's one of those guys I can't pull the trigger on. It would have been perfect if Calvin Ridley fell to us here. I would have felt a lot more comfortable. But, a lot of people, especially if my league mates watch these videos, they know I want Calvin Ridley in the 4th round, and I'm not going to get him in most leagues. Christian Watson is a guy that we could take here. Again, I exited out the draft on accident, but let's move down here. I think who I want to take here is, it's interesting because we could also go with the bully tight end strategy, get George Kittle, 2 top 5 tight ends. That would be something very, very interesting. But Christian Watson, Brandon Ayuk, or Mike Williams, most likely the selection here. I'm going to hope that Tyler Lockett or Mike Evans make it back to me on this 6-7 turn. Man, it's tough to make this decision. However, However, let's go Brandon Ayuk. I talked about him last. No, we're going to go Christian Watson. I know I'm everywhere. Stick with me, right? Alexander Mattison was there. We could have easily went with Alexander Mattison. However, I stayed away simply because I didn't want to have Alexander Mattison and Justin Jefferson on the same team. I don't want to put all my eggs into that basket. But we got Christian Watson, the number one receiver for a quarterback I believe in, an offense I believe in, to not necessarily win a lot in real life. I think they're 9-8 this year. But for fantasy sakes, Christian Watson can break out. He can be that good, that very valuable receiver. And if that is the case, I'm getting a pretty good value there in the 5th round. Not the greatest value, right? Not the greatest value, but he's definitely a very solid option. Tyler Lockett did go. Mike Evans is there. Mike Evans could be a very good receiver this year, as he's been he's been a receiver that's put up like 1,000 yards in 8 straight years. I think he's the first to ever do it, which is kind of crazy to say, but Mike Evans is there. Alvin Kamara, if I want to get a running back, if I want to take a shot on him. But here's the plan. I think the plan with this team, with how it's been laid out, we're going to go with a guy like Rachaad White, but there's no guarantee he makes it back with how Team 2 is drafted. So here's the plan. I'm going to bank that Team 2 doesn't take another wide receiver, and we're going to go out there, we're going to get our running back, which in this case is Rachaad White, and then we're going to come back and grab a Marquise Brown or a Mike Evans. That is the hope here. Or maybe even we double dip on tight end. I'm gonna take our running back, the running back we believe in the most in here, out of Dalvin Cook, Kamara, and Isaiah Pacheco. We're gonna take Rachaad White, and we're gonna hope for the best. Dalvin Cook goes, Christian Kirk, Isaiah Pacheco, and Mike Evans. So we're gonna go out there and get maybe my favorite receiver anyway out of these guys on the board, and Marquise Brown. I do hope Jordan Addison makes it back to us. If Jordan Addison can make it back to us, we are going to be in business. But he is the best receiver on the board left. There's no way he makes it back to us, right? Yeah, okay. He goes at the beginning of the 8th round. That was a pipe dream, and that pipe dream didn't work out too well for us. Quentin Johnson was another guy I was looking at, but he went. But we still have a lot of upside on this team. Again, I talked to you guys about it on Wednesday. Upside wins championships. And a guy that has upside here is a guy like Pat Freiermuth. I think he's a guy that's, with the improvement from Kenny Pickett, could very well finish as a top 3 tight end. David Njoku, with the resurgence of Deshaun Watson, could very well finish as a top 3 tight end. But I do have to do my due diligence, look at this running back position. Zach Charbonnet is there. If any injury happens, he would be in a really good position. Jerick McKinnon is a guy I want to grab. Jamal Williams is another guy we can look at. Rashad Penny is okay. Brian Robinson is okay, as we took him in the last one. I'm gonna kind of bully tight end strategy this. I'm gonna go Pat Freiermuth. Why? You ask me. I don't know. I'm kind of trying out different things here to give us an advantage at the tight end position. This is a position that now we can start 2 players at the same position each and every week, and they both might finish top 5 in that single position. So bully tight end strategy with Freiermuth and Andrews in the AFC North. That could be very interesting. But week 9, right? Round 9 comes. I'm ready for football. Zay Flowers, very interesting selection. Rashad Penny, if I want to bank on this, this narrative that, DeAndre Swift is going to get injured or he's not ready and he's not really the true running back 1 on this team. Rashad Penny is a very interesting selection. But there's a lot of mouths to feed in that backfield. And with that being said, Brian Robinson, a guy who, again, I think he's being underrated, as I haven't really been the biggest fan of him. I'm not the biggest fan of him. But as far as his draft value, I think he's very underrated because people act like he can't catch the ball. People act like he can't receive the ball. Antonio Gibson, there's no guarantee he's going to be that guy this year. I think if anything, it's more likely we see an increased role from Gibson than a split workload from the both of those backs. However, we're back on the clock here. We desperately need running backs, but I love the start to our draft. As the first 4 rounds, we have a lot of upside. I probably should have taken Terry McLaurin here, as he's the number 1 in that offense, but so is DJ Moore. So rightfully so, it's kind of heads or tails there. But after that, it was Jerry Jeudy, Hopkins, and Watson. I would have loved to grab either Jeudy and McLaurin or Jeudy and Moore. But, not everything always falls in your favor. However, we're back on the clock. De'Von Achane is a guy that is very interesting. If we're shooting for upside, that is the guy we want to go for, as he could very well be the running back in this Miami offense. It's just tough to bank on a rookie like that. Tyler Boyd's a very good option here, very safe option. I am going to take the risk here because we are on the turn. We can come back around and take another running back. So with that being said, give me De'Von Achane with the hope that Mostert goes down with his week 1 quarter 1 injury, and we now have a running back that could possibly step in over Jeff Wilson, and at the very worst be a third down back that catches a lot of passes. But we're back here. We see Jerick McKinnon went off the board, which is very unfortunate. But Zeke Elliott is here. Do we go Zeke Elliott? As we started off this draft very strong. I don't know how I feel about the second half of this draft, the latter half of the bench at least. However, do we start with Zeke, or do we go with Zeke? I'm not going to do it. Tank Bigsby is another guy that I want to take, but we just took him. Tyler Algier is a guy that we could take. But we're clicking around here. Chigozie Okonkwo, a guy I've really loved this year, but we've taken the bully tight end strategy with Andrews and Pat Freiermuth. No need for another tight end. And I think we're going to settle here on Tyler Algier, right? Do we want to go that route? Just give me one moment here. I'm trying to figure this out. As Kareem Hunt is another guy that he could very well end up in a place like Philadelphia and be a really good option there. Tyler Boyd is another guy we can look at. As Jalen Hurts, do we have any sleeper Philadelphia options here? And we don't. But I am going to go. Let's figure this out here. Sky Moore is an option. Tyler Boyd, I think he's a guy I'm kind of narrowing it down to. I'll say that. But I know I'm holding you guys up here. Let's go Tyler Algier, right? A guy who could still very well be solid first half of the season. Maybe he gets off to a hot start in Atlanta, and I can capitalize on his trade value to move him at the midseason mark when Bijan is finally ready to take over. Or who knows? Maybe it is really a split backfield there in Atlanta. And just like last year, Tyler Algier can kind of come out of nowhere and shock the world and be a very good running back here in the 11th round. So we're back here on the clock, our last 2 picks. Again, it's kind of a draft that kind of got away from us. But again, this is how you practice. This is how you got to get ready for leagues like this. I wouldn't mind a Darnell Mooney selection here. Take some upside pick there. But we do also have DJ Moore. So do we really want 2 receivers in the same boat? Zay Jones is a guy that we could take. I think he's very underrated. Jaden Reed is a guy we could take yet again. Sam Laporta and Michael Mayer. I might not take them this draft, but Sam Laporta, rookie tight end for Detroit, and Michael Mayer, rookie tight end there in Las Vegas. Both of those guys. Luke Musgrave is another guy. These are guys that can all be very valuable options, so that will be my sleeper for this mock draft, though I might not take them. Darnell Mooney, I think just overall the talent that he is, we might take him here, but I'm going to go Jaylen Warren. And you can see that I've put myself in a position where we've had to take a lot of these handcuff running backs, is the way to put it, as we finish off with money with 2 O's. We've had to take a lot of handcuff running backs, a lot of running backs with a lot of questions, as Rachaad White and Brian Robinson, 2 guys that could very well explode this year and be very, very good options, 2 top 10 type of guys that have lots of upside, but there's no guaranteed floor with them. Their floor is extremely low, and that's going to be the biggest weakness of this team. But again, every team has weaknesses. In a deeper league like this with 3 wide receivers, every team is going to have a weakness. But I think definitely we have the star power with Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, and Mark Andrews. 3 of those guys can finish as the top 1 at their positions. And we just need either DJ Moore, Christian Watson, or Marquise Brown to be a top 25, top 30 receiver. We just need them to be solid. And I think this team is just kind of unfair. So again, we started off the draft super good. And that's the benefit of having Jefferson fall to a 3 is even if I had a bad latter half of the draft, we still had a very good start to the draft. But again, every team is going to have their weaknesses, so it's kind of a give and take. I'm going to take the superstar power in the onesie positions and sacrifice our receiver position a little bit but the draft, of course, didn't always fall in our favor, and we ended up with what we had. But I'm still very happy with, given our situation, of what we ended up with. That is the second draft here, and now we're going to go with a draft at the latter half before we get out of here. And you know what? I'll keep it as a 10-team league this time. 10-team league. We'll go full PPR to switch it up. No time limit, of course, because I like to ramble, is a way to put it. But let's go with let's go with a 2-flex league. Take off a bench spot. Let's go with 2 flexes, and we'll see how different teams draft here. So we're gonna go with we're gonna go with number 8. Number 8, right? So number 8 is a position where we're not exactly at the turn, so we can't double tap the position, but we're like in a weird position where do we want to reach or we're right by the turn. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens as we are approaching our pick. We see McCaffrey go 1, Jefferson 2, Chase, Kelsey, and Eckler are in the top 5. Following that was Kupp and Hill. This is more of a reasonable start to a draft than having, Tyreek Hill go 2, which is a crazy scenario. But we're on the clock here, and this puts us in a position where if we take a look, Bijan Robinson, look, I love him. I just can't pull myself to take him in the first round. So second round would definitely be a position for Bijan. So if he comes back to us, well, we might actually pull the trigger on it. Nick Chubb, to me, a top 3 running back. He might be the selection here, but we also have Saquon, Bijan, and Nick Chubb, so I might take my chances, or with a guy like Derrick Henry that can make it back to us. The receiver, I think, is the position to go here, and Davante Adams is here. I think my highest rated receiver is Stephon Diggs. Do we want to go with the Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen start to this draft? That would be a very interesting start, but I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. After that pick, it was A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Davante Adams. We're back on the clock here. Bijan's there, Saquon's there, and Chubb is there. You know what? I haven't taken a Browns player, I don't think, in any of these drafts. I'm going to go out there and take Nick Chubb, my running back, 2 or 3 on the season. Nick Chubb is in an offense that is going to be a lot more pass happy, but Nick Chubb is maybe the best running back in the league. I promise you he can catch the ball more so than even a screen pass and take it 60, 70 yards for a touchdown, have those breakout plays. Stephon Diggs, Nick Chubb is the start to our draft. We just see Najee Harris go off the board in a 10-team league. A little early, but again, for me, it's normal. Being in the Midwest, we see a lot of Pittsburgh players go a lot earlier than expected. But Chris Olave is a guy that has fell into our laps, and I'm going to gladly take him. As long as there's no other guys here that I'm just clearly overlooking. Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, here's the game plan. Here is the game plan. I think if we can go in this draft and we can go Chris Olave and then come back with Jahmyr Gibbs, wrap it up. We're going to go Chris Olave, a top 15 or so receiver for me this year, top 14 I think, and I think we just got exactly what we wanted as Stephon Diggs, Nick Chubb, Chris Olave, and Jahmyr Gibbs. We have stability on this team with Stephon Diggs and Nick Chubb, but those are 2 guys that could also finish number 1 at their positions. Then we have nothing but upside. Chris Olave, Jahmyr Gibbs, a second-year receiver in Chris Olave, and a first-year running back in Jahmyr Gibbs that was drafted 12th overall. The Lions plan to use him a lot in the receiving game. I love that start to the draft. I'm just going to put it out there. I love that start to the draft. But we're back on the clock here. 5th round. It's a little too early for me in a 10-teamer to take a guy like George Kittle, as we see 4 other very good options here with Goddard, Pitts, Waller, and Kittle. I would definitely wait until the 6th round, so we'll see. I guess the cards are in Team 9 and 10's favor. It's in their hands. And I think this draft board, it just loves me right now. It just loves me right now because we're going to go with, to me, my number 5 quarterback on the season. Could even be number 4. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert, a guy who, if you've watched yesterday's podcast, you can see I'm very high on the Chargers this season, and most notably Justin Herbert. I think he can have an MVP level year. I don't think he wins it, but still an MVP caliber of a season, and he's going to be very good for us in our fantasy league. But again, we have 2 flex positions to fill here. DJ Moore in this league falls to the 6th. Jerry Jeudy is an option. Christian Watson is an option. Do we want to double tap the tight end position or even go with our first tight end here in Dallas Goedert? which is the top 5 tight end to me, I think we go with wide receiver, because I'm okay with grabbing a guy like Chig Okonkwo, a guy who I really believe in this year. Let me make sure there's no really, really good running backs I don't want to get my hands on. There's not. Alexander Mattison is a good option, but not at this point. And just because we took DJ Moore earlier, let me go out there and get a guy like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is the guy that should be the number one in this Denver offense, a Denver offense that is looking to score a lot of points this year under Sean Payton. And the only way to do that is through the air. At least that's the easiest way to do it. And Jerry Jeudy would be the biggest beneficiary of it. And just look how this draft board fell. I said that I wanted to take Dallas Goedert at this pick. I was contemplating it. You don't see a lot of orange on, to finish out the 6th round and close out the 7th. You see Kyle Pitts go, but now Dallas Goedert falls right into our laps. And this is the game plan. This is the game plan. This is where strategy comes in. Do we want to bet that this team with George Kittle or this team with Darren Waller takes Dallas Goedert in these 4 picks? Do I want to take that bet? Because there's a guy by the name of Mike Williams on the board that I would love to take. And you know what? Let's take that risk. Mike Williams is our selection, and we got lucky. We played the board, we played the ADP game, and now we're going to get Dallas Goedert, a top 5 tight end to me this season. And now look at our team. We have Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. At running back, we have Nick Chubb and Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 guys that could both finish top 5 this year. We have Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy, which is the most questionable pick I made, and then Mike Williams. So we have an elite stack with Mike Williams and Justin Herbert. We have 4 great wide receivers with upside, 2 running backs that could finish top 5 at the position, and to me, a very steady, a very stable tight end there that I think is a top 5 tight end this year, in all honesty. But moving over here in the 9th round, man, I love 10-team leagues, right? 10-team leagues give you a lot more talent. It's not as stressful as those 12-team leagues where the second half of the drafts can really get away from you. But Chig Okonkwo is a guy that I'm going to grab here. If not this turn, it's going to be next turn. But Pat Freiermuth is also on the board. That's a guy that we could grab and really double tap the position. And why not? Why not? Let's get crazy. Here's the game plan. And it's worked out twice already, 3rd time's the charm. We're going to go with Pat Freiermuth, and we're going to hope that Jahan Dotson makes it back to us. Let's see. Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, and A.J. Dillon. So that pipe dream didn't work. I guess 3rd time wasn't our charm, is a good way to put it. But receivers, when we look at the board here, I don't see Jordan Addison's right here. I was going to say I don't see a guy by the name of Jordan Addison off the board. But of course, we had to take our guy here in Dallas Goedert. So we double tap the tight end position. We have 2 top 6 guys to me. I think Pat Freiermuth's right out my top 5. If not, he might be in my top 5 when the season starts. Tua is here. Tua, again, if this was a 14, 15 round draft, I would probably go out there and draft my quarterback too at this point. But it's not. It's a mock draft for a reason, to get a overall idea for a reason. And I wouldn't mind grabbing another running back at this point, as we kind of let that position get away from us with all the exciting options at receiver and tight end. Antonio Gibson, you know what? We're gonna take the pipe shot here. We're gonna take the shot in the dark here. Quentin Johnson was going to be my selection there until I realized we only have 2 running backs here on the roster. Excuse me. I might even leave that in the podcast, because if you made it to this point, you're obviously enjoying at least a little bit. So support us down below. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, as this is your reminder to support us. Help us on the road to 500 subs. But we took Antonio Gibson there because, hey, what if the chance that the rumors are finally true on the yearly battle with Antonio Gibson? What if Bieniemy is really the guy that can turn Gibson around and make him a very good pass catcher and consistent at that point? Kind of a resurgence to his early years there in his career. Zach Charbonnet is a guy that I haven't gotten a lot in these mock drafts, but he is a guy I might be interested to take. But we are going to go with, Samaje Perine. If you guys don't know who Samaje Perine is, first off, I kind of don't blame you, but he was with Cincinnati for many years. Every time that Joe Mixon went down, Samaje stepped up, and he was really, really good in the time that Joe Mixon was gone. And in preseason, when the Denver Broncos played their starters for a lot, I think they had like 9 or 10 total drives. Samaje Perine played every single snap of those offensive drives for Denver in their starting units. So we know Javonte is battling injury. He's going to be coming back. I'm a big Javonte fan. However, I think Samaje, he has a lot of upside this year to catch a lot of passes and be fantasy relevant. Now we're here in the 12th round, last round of this draft and of this video. Again, real life draft. I'm probably going Elijah Moore. I'm probably going Jameson Williams or not Courtland Sutton, but you get the picture. I'm probably going with a guy like Jerick McKinnon, a proven veteran that can catch a lot of passes, and every year he's fantasy relevant. Some way, somehow, he is fantasy relevant. But how do I want to play this? I can go Kenny Pickett and get the stack with Pat Freiermuth is a way to put it. I can go out there and get Russ, get the stack with Jerry Jeudy. Elijah Moore, again, is the most logical pick here if I'm looking at the board. But let me just scroll down here. Let me see if I can find a sleeper for you guys this year. As, again, this is the last draft pick of the video. I'm not seeing anybody that really pops out to me, as we're in that point in the draft where, it's kind of like Josh Downs is a good pick here. And I actually am going to take Josh Downs. I actually like Josh Downs a lot this year, as Indianapolis, as we know, they have Anthony Richardson as their starting quarterback. He has all the tools to be an effective year one starter, but I think he just needs time to develop, and that really comes down to it. But Josh Downs is a rookie receiver out of North Carolina. He's going to be their slot receiver, and as we know, the slot receiver gets targeted more than any other receiver in an offense, typically. He's a young guy there, very explosive, very good route runner, and good catch. I guess receiver is a better way to put it. If he can find a connection with Anthony Richardson, this is a steal of a pick in round 17 or 18 of your drafts, because he could even go undrafted in a lot of leagues. But Josh Downs, to me, very, very good pick, and he might be my last pick in every round or in every draft I have this year. But Josh Downs there to close out the draft. Our last team goes as follows. We have Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. At the running back position, we have Nick Chubb, Jahmyr Gibbs. We have Antonio Gibson, Samaje Perine, and that is the position, as we have two guys that can finish top 5, but 2 guys on the bench that have a lot of upside to be very fantasy relevant this year. At the receiver position, we have Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, as well as Josh Downs to close out the draft. Again, 12-team league or 12-round league here. It's just a mock draft, just to get the overall premise of how you can attack this spot at number 8. But at the tight end position, we have Dallas Goedert and Pat Freiermuth, 2 top 6, top 5 guys for me heading into 2023. And I really like this draft. Again, it was a 10-teamer, but this, no doubt, was probably my best draft today. But that's going to do it for today's video, as it's Friday, August 25th. We only have a week or so left into our fantasy drafts. A couple weeks left until the NFL starts up here, as college football starts next week. It's kind of crazy that this offseason is gone. It was a long offseason, don't get me wrong, but football is right there. So football, I'm excited for it to be back. But until Tuesday, have a great weekend. I think we don't have any football this weekend, but next week we do. So have a great weekend. If you have your fantasy draft this weekend, drop any questions down below. I'd be willing to give you some insight. I'm not an expert, but I can give you some really good insight or just a different opinion on an approach you can take. So good luck on your drafts this weekend, if so. If not, I'll see you guys Tuesday for another great week of episodes on the road to 500 subs. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, enjoy your weekend, but be safe. I'm out.